So let's talk about the impact of browser security. For example, plugins. I chose this topic because I think plugins are used by many millions of users, and I've seen so many security problems with that, especially the one we're looking at right now in cribs and security. Can you go ahead, Abdulrahman, and tell us something about the
plugin? So to give a summary to everybody, like this basically is a case where a website got hacked. And by hacked, I mean that the website suddenly had a script inside of it that was loading malicious advertisements. And it turns out, according to this article, which you sent me, that this happened because the developer that has access to the back end of the website, I believe they mentioned it was like a WordPress or something. This developer had a web extension or plugin, however you want to say it, that was malicious and was actually looking for ways to inject malicious advertisements within the WordPress administration panel. And so this was an interesting case of a malicious web extension hacking a website, instead of hacking because usually web extensions just, they have client-side privileges. They can change the website that you're viewing currently. But rarely do I see a web extension that's actually affecting a server side. So that's a pretty smart, security thing there. The thing is, anybody can publish extensions, right? So anybody can develop an extension and publish it in any of the browser's web extension stores, right? You don't have to have anything extra. I haven't checked this, but I believe Chrome, I think they are going to start asking for $1 or something. So they have some way to verify that you are a real person and not malicious. And I think Mozilla wants to charge like $3. This is not fact. I think I heard something like this. Because whenever you have, anybody posting malicious web extension, it's really difficult to prevent it, right? It's not an easy thing to do. You have thousands of extensions being published in all of these browsers. It's a difficult task to make sure that they're not malicious. So with this instance, for example, it's even more difficult, because what happened is that this extension is an official extension. It's like 400,000 users.
Yep.
But what happened was that it was sold to somebody. So somebody sold it, and then they updated it, quote unquote, with malicious code. And then when the web extension updated, the users got the malicious code. And this is a common practice, by the way, is that malicious companies approach semi-popular extensions and give them good money in order to do things like this. And this is difficult to prevent, right? So what happens, like I can speak about like Google Chrome and even the Microsoft Web Store, is that we have certain checks in place. So without getting too much into detail, but like, for example, obfuscating code is not allowed, in I think all instances in all stores. Excuse me. So obfuscation means that instead of having a normal JavaScript, you would hide it in a way so you don't know what it's doing, even if you read the source code.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that is not allowed, right? Minimization is allowed, but not obfuscation. Certain things like this, it's occurring. it's a difficult problem, but I think like recently, Chromium is going to be pushing for something called Manifest version 3, which should mitigate some of the risk here.
Oh,
But I believe that there's a lot more work to be done.
yeah, I'm sure about that. Okay, okie dokie. So my final section and the topic that I like to talk about, ICS, Industrial Cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Abdulrahman. I know you're not an ICS guy, but I'm sure you can add some knowledge to it from your domain specific skills and knowledge. Actually, and I'm saying it now, I'm not sure if I'm correct about this vulnerability that I'm going to talk about, spider control, because I was interested to know or curious to know because I found the word browser and we didn't make so much research about this yet, but we saw the vulnerability and we saw what commonality this vulnerability has with browser security. So, Abdulrahman, please tell us, have you found something similar to your work in this vulnerability?
Yeah, so I didn't really go too deep as far as implementation details of how they implement these browsers. From what I can tell, they are embedded browsers at times. So they would be like either an embedded Chromium or Chrome browser or an Internet Explorer 11 embedded browser. This is as far as I can tell. Especially there was one interesting, I'm not talking about this specifically, but I believe there's one called like automation browser by Spider Control, which does like switches between Internet Explorer 11. I assume, by the way, I don't know for a fact, I'm assuming this.
Right.
Switches between Internet Explorer 11 or Chrome, depending on if it needs that compatibility aspect of the browser. So for example, one of the common issues with let's say micro browsers or browsers within the ICS world is that usually you have a lot of outdated technologies, web technologies being used.
Yep.
So one big problem is like, yeah, so like ActiveX, for example, this is a technology in the Internet Explorer 11, and it's pretty bad for security. You will not find support for it in you know, Edge or any other browser because just like Flash and what other embedded stuff, like I forgot the Microsoft one was called, but yeah, Java, for example, embedded applications. These, you know, if you notice throughout the years, they've been slowly, you know, getting deleted, right? And now no longer any of them work because they introduce too much. They break the security boundary of the browser. And so it's bad for security. And so this is what I'm noticing that these browsers and ICS are doing. They are supporting Java applets. They are supporting ActiveX because, you know, and I don't blame them because, you know, you have hardware that's running really old. But even if it's old, doesn't mean it doesn't work, right? But it's just old technologies. And probably the cost to upgrade everything is just too much. It's not just like upgrading your browser, right? You have hardware involved and you have infrastructure, and this is probably something you can talk about. And so, for example, like not only does it support old technologies, so there was one bug which you gave me, which I think it was this one. It was a buffer overflow, and I believe it's mentioned somewhere, though basically it was using an ActiveX DLL. And this ActiveX, oh yeah, there you go. So this is related to ActiveX. So this is a buffer overflow after you activate the ActiveX control that this specific vendor, I guess this is the vendor's DLL. Once you load it, then you can trigger a buffer overflow. So again, it's tied to the old technology of ActiveX, which you know, I mean, if you want to support it, that's fine. That's your business.
Which is very common in ICS, you know, these legacy
Yeah.
hardware and software, and sometimes they cannot bring the operation down, so they keep the old versions and all models working.
And this is very bad for security. This is where, you know, hackers will benefit. When you are supporting old technology and you don't know the security in them. So, you know, this can be an issue. Another issue.
Yep.
And so this is one thing, right? Supporting old technologies. You can do it the right way,
Yep.
but if you don't do it the right way, it can introduce a lot of issues, right?
Yep. There are some mitigations about this, you know, some ICS are aware about these issues, so they do some, you know, tweaking, like isolate them in a different zone or put firewalls or, you know, segment. Yeah, so they don't make them exposed directly to the internet or to remote access, you know what I mean?
And that's probably the best thing that ICS should do. And I recently even, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there is a push to create ICS and connect them to the internet, correct? And because classically it's intranet, right? It's only local. But I think the next generation is going to be internet.
The cloud could be the cloud. Yeah, the cloud will expose more ICS, and some of them are exposed, but now maybe the cloud will increase that.
Yeah. So the browsers are going to be even more important. Especially if you're using any internet, like SCADA micro browser, for example, here uses, from what I understand, an HTML tag, static HTML tags file name, that isn't an official tag, HTML tag. This is specific for micro browser from SCADA Spider Control, and apparently this the implementation for this tag contained a buffer overflow as well. So this is something that embedded browsers can do. They can introduce new implementation, new APIs, and you know, you can take advantage of them.
And this is what we were talking about. You know, the severity. Look, they give it here 6.8. Okay, but somebody from the ICS community might disagree. You know, they say this could be more, because why you put it 6.8? Because it's just overflow. I can put it 10, for example. They can say that, or maybe low. I don't know, but this is what we were talking about.
Not like from the browser perspective, because this is a browser, and I don't know the exact details why and how, but from, like, for example, I believe in I don't want to get too like complicated into this, but we have Edge has a process model. So you have a browser process, and then you have renderer process.
Okay.
What this means is that this page right here, it's actually loaded in a separate process than the browser itself.
Cool.
And so why am I saying that is because if you find a bug that crashes like I don't know, like a use after free or whatever in the renderer process, then that's less severe, because it's sandbox, by the way. I forgot to say that. Sandbox, the renderer.
All right.
It's less severe than if you find the same type of vulnerability, like a use after free, in the browser process, because the browser process has much higher privileges and than the renderer, the sandbox renderer. So this is one way for me, you know, as a person working from the other side, right? This is how I can determine if something is you know, severe or not. Where is it crashing exactly, right? But it is an interesting topic, and I feel like it needs a lot of more work and collaboration to really figure it out.
Yeah, because I haven't seen many in the ICS community talk about browsers and browser security. So I thought when when I'm with you now, I thought why not, promote some ideas or brainstorm some ideas. They don't have to be correct, correct, but we're just in the process of, exploring dimensions that browser security aspect could be applied to CS security.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I like to give advice to bug bounty hunters in general, not just for browsers, is that, if you feel that you are correct about a severity, don't back down just because somebody disagrees with you. Present your evidence if you have it.
Yep.
And also accept the fact that you might be wrong as well. Don't be, don't force it, because obviously you have a bias to make it more severe. But at the same time, it could be more severe in reality, and the triager or whatever, the person looking at your report might not understand it or missed something.
And from academic point of view, like research, when I did my research, actually I found many papers criticizing the CVSS score itself by from many aspects. One of them is the mathematical equations. They're not justified. I mean, they criticize on what basis these equations were established. And the other factor from criticism is the environmental, and the temporary variables that they are added to the score. How the guy who scored the vulnerability, how did he decide the environmental and the temporal metrics, if you know what I mean? Because, the CVSS is composed of three things, the base, the environmental, and the temporal. So this is also one of the criticism, the second one. Also, the third one, which I told you about, is the domain specific, is the IT people who are scoring the ICS vulnerabilities like this one. They have no clue about the ICS real risk. You could say it's risky, but to them it's not risky, or the other way around, if you know what I mean. And it's quite interesting research has been done to criticize this score. And actually, the ICS conferences, they proposed, as far as I know, 3 different metrics to assess ICS vulnerabilities and devices. And to my surprise, I was one of them, but I wasn't in the conference because I also proposed a metric in my research, in my PhD research, on how to assess secure ICS devices. And if you go to Google Scholar and type my name, you will find my research there, for free. And that's it, my friend.
And nice. And do you think there is any improvements happening, or is there no hope in the future?
It's still proof of concept, all the 3 works that I've seen. They're still, I don't think they are considered yet by the community and the standard organizations. So hopefully, I don't know, maybe one day they will do something about the CVSS. So at the moment they are using it, but they don't really rely on the score itself. This is what I learned from them, the ICS people. They say don't rely on the scores, just you do your own risk by yourself. When you do the assessment process, and then you implement the controls based on what you see, what you see fit.
Yeah. Like for me, from my ignorant perspective, obviously I haven't done like a thesis like you did, but for me, I feel like every area should have its own. No, about about like CVSS, right? Like
okay.
I didn't know about the temporal and all of the environment stuff. I didn't know about that. So, but my opinion, I would say, is that and I like to know what you think is. Do you think there should be a different calculation for every, let's say, domain? So, for example, browser security issues should have their own calculator, while ICS issues should have their own, and WebF issues should have their own, like this?
Actually, I don't promote for individual scoring. What I mean is you don't score for a particular device or a software, because what's coming now, and you see the internet is expanding and it's becoming like a system, integrated system. I think what I'm wishing to happen is to make scoring based on systems, like how the interactions, because sometimes your software is secure, but when it interacts with another software, it becomes insecure. The whole thing will become insecure, produce new vulnerabilities. So I think this is a new research coming in the future, that it's the security of systems, the system security, not just by individual, but as a whole, if you know what I mean. So yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting thing to look into for sure.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, Abdulrahman, it's been really fun to talk to you, and we cannot stop if we go on, because I think yep. Because
I haven't looked at the time. How long have we been doing this?
Sorry?
How long have we been doing this? I wasn't looking at at the time or anything.
Doing what?
Talking.
Oh, let me check my clock. Now 2 hours and maybe 15 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
I swear I thought it was like an hour only. What?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you too. And I'm really happy, Abdulrahman. And do you have anything to say before we leave?
Yeah, just if you want to go into researching, just go for it. You don't have to do browsers if that's not your thing, but just do anything, something every day. Just do it. Cool. That's it. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed the interview. And of course, this won't be the last one. We will have many discussions in the upcoming episodes with different people, maybe with Abdulrahman again. I'm sure.
Yes.
Yep. And I'm looking to interview many security professionals from all over the world. We all share knowledge, we all look for knowledge, and this is the goal of my channel, is we share knowledge. And okay, I have to finish this, and if you like it, please thumbs up, subscribe. I don't have to repeat this, we already know. Thank you very much. Thank you, Abdulrahman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll see you.
See you.